up, guys? Welcome back to the project. I know it's been about a month since I made a post. My last post was about our parts list and what was going into it, and we've had a lot of crunch time since then. We've made a lot of leadway. We've made our goal. Well, I guess that's a spoiler alert because you guys didn't know that unless you follow me on like Instagram or Facebook. But basically, in this video, I'm just going to go over stuff that I really struggled with. I tried taking a video of my second gen swap, and with my phone it's not very easy to record in time lapse, so I figured it'd just be easier just to get it done and then go over what I struggled with and kind of tips and tricks that I figured out along the way to help people and kind of simplify it, because a 40-minute video of me doing a second gen swap, I didn't feel like it'd be too entertaining for you guys. So let's go over what's done now. It's been a long time since you've even seen these parts. So we got the S476 in on the ATS manifold. We got the fleece downpipe in, fleece install kit in. We got our injectors in, our pump in. We got everything powder coated. Last time you guys seen it, the engine bay was like just ugly as can be, and it came together pretty good for working out of a driveway in a really tight shop space. So the first thing I did was took the stock turbo and manifold off, and I started in on the second gen swap. And at first, I was thinking, oh, this is going really good. And I tip right off the bat, if you're going to do a second gen swap, do it while the truck is hot. The manifold bolts are a bitch to get out when they're cold. When the truck's hot, those manifold bolts and heads kind of expanded, they come out a lot easier. Only other issue other than that was, getting the manifold and turbo out. I took it out as one. I mean, it's kind of heavy, kind of awkward, but it can be done very easy. Other than that, I cut the drain tube off, and then, I read on the forums and stuff, people were saying, just turn it and take it out of the block. No, it does not work like that. I sat there for hours trying to get that drain tube out of the block, and it would not come out for nothing. I ended up grabbing it with a pair of pliers underneath the truck, and I tried bending it and then pulling it out of the block because it was so stuck in there from, just years of rust and stuff building up around it. Ended up falling into the pan, which several guys told me just to knock it in the pan. And some guys were like, oh, I'll just leave it in the pan, which, I mean, they're right. You can do that. The pickup tube on these is not like some cars would be. The pickup tube's about that big around, and the ports in it are so big that it wouldn't matter. You would never pick that piece up into the oil system. But I ended up having to pull the pan off anyways. When we were doing the pump, it went real smooth. I done the injectors and they went real smooth, but we started to do the fleece coolant bypass kit, and to get that in with the trans in the truck sucked. I would never do it again. Like, if I would pull the trans before I ever tried doing it again. On Fleece's website, they say it's like an hour-and-a-half install. Yeah, sure. If the engine's out of the truck, yeah, it's an hour-and-a-half install. No, it sucked. I don't do this stuff every day, and that's the way most of you guys are. I know most of you guys aren't just diesel mechanics that are, doing this. You guys are just kids like me that want to have cool projects and fun stuff to drive. And I can tell you from my point of view right now that it sucked bad. To get the back freeze plug out, I was laying on the ground with a 3-foot crowbar and a hammer, and I had my buddy laying on the valve cover with his arm behind the engine, feeling where to put that crowbar. We got the freeze plug out, and then it took us forever to get that block mounted. Those bolts are really long-winded, and all the way down that thread, because there's never been a bolt back in there on the back side of that head. So all the way down that thread was full of rust and shit, and it took forever to get those bolts in. And it was not an easy fought battle, but as we were doing that, he had his arm right here and broke the dipstick tube off. Like about halfway down, it just cracked. I was like, oh hell, that's nothing. We can fix that real easy. I went and bought a new dipstick tube, and as we're trying to get the old one out, I was underneath with a pair of pliers turning it, trying to get it loose, and then I was like, oh, it's turning, pull up on it. Broke off flush with the block. So I sat underneath it for like 3 days straight, every day after work, trying to get it out. I had an easy out in there. I sat there with a tap, a chisel, a punch, everything I could do to try to get it out. And then I ended up breaking the easy out off flush with the block. And this was like 2 days before our dyno session. So I had to pull the engine mounts off, jack the whole engine up to where it was as high as it would go. The cowl was hitting the valve cover, would not go any higher. And I had to pull the pan off of it and get down underneath there with an air hammer and knock that chisel out, and then sit there with a little baby screwdriver and a hammer, just smacking on this dipstick tube, trying to get it out. Which ended up, it worked out pretty good because I got that piece out. I got a couple other contaminant pieces that were in the pan out that who knows how they got there, and ended up getting the turbo drain tube out. So, I mean, as far as tips and tricks on what to do, if I ever broke another dipstick tube again, I would say JB Weld it 100%. Because that, I mean, it's the amount of labor it took just to put that dipstick tube back in was stupid, because JB Weld would have fixed it perfectly fine. And then on the drain, just knock it into the block. Don't mess with it. Don't sit there for hours like I did. Just hit it right in the pan. On your CP3, when you take the nut cover off the timing case, put a rag down in there. I didn't pull the whole timing cover off. I just put a rag underneath the nut, backed it off. There's a washer in there that comes out with it. Other than that, that was pretty straightforward. On your injectors, you know, when you put that when you put the copper crush washer on the injector tip and you try to stick it down in the hole, they will fall off. I only had 1 out of 6 stay on the injector body. So when you do that, take your phone, take a picture with the flash on, and make sure that that copper crush washer didn't get angled down in there, because the injector will fit into that hole, and you won't, if you don't think about it, you'll put that injector in without the copper crush washer on it, and you will have an internal leak. Other than that, I had to delete the battery on the passenger side because the compressor housing was hitting the tray. I probably could have shaved the tray down to make it fit, but right here it was hitting. I had to bend the AC lines up. Just be very careful when you do it. If you bend this AC line too fast, it'll crack right here. It'll crack down there. I've seen people do it. Just be patient, take your time. I had a little bit of problems with the intercooler pipe fitment on this side. Had to do a little cutting, a little thinking, ended up working out. If you're wanting to run an S476 and you get a fleece install kit, the fleece intake will not work. Only the hard plastic piece and the air filter will work. The elbow they send you is a 5-inch, and these race covers is 5.5. So this is a 6 to 5 reducer at a 45-degree angle, and it's got a 5.5-inch sleeve on the inside of the 6-inch side. Long-winded. Other than that, trying to think of anything that I had problems with that I could help you with. No, I think other than that, it was pretty smooth going. Yeah, I didn't really have any other issues. Oh, yes I did. I lied big time. If you buy a fleece coolant bypass and you decide to take that journey, there is a plug right down there in the middle of nowhere, behind all the wiring harnesses, behind all the fuel lines, everything. It's a Allen head, a little aluminum piece you screw into the block. Do not do what I did. I was like, oh hell, just put a bolt in the hose and then hose clamp it, because it's not, you know, it can't have that much pressure on it. I took it out for a test rip, and as soon as I hit the street, I made like 2 passes, blew the bolt right out, coolant went everywhere. I lost like $100 in coolant right there. That's the Zerex Go5 is what they recommend for these. But once you do that, you're fine. The heater, the heat exchanger that the transmission fluid and the coolant go through to heat the trans fluid up in the winter, they send you these little caps to put over the coolant tubes that come off the heat exchanger. Those clamps that they put on there from the factory suck. They're a pain to get off. I found out if you took some really long, probably I think they were about 1 foot long, needle nose pliers and get in there from this fender well, it works out way easier. Other than that, I mean, the fleece install for the coolant bypass really wasn't awful, but if you have to pull the trans, do it then. If you have the engine out, do it with the engine out. Anything you can do to avoid doing it all put together will save you a ton of time, a ton of headache. Let's see. Oh, yeah, right before we went to Firepunk, this ball joint was bad. For some reason, this side was so, I don't know if it just hasn't ever been changed or what, but when I tried to get the rotor off, I had to beat it off. Sat there for hours with a torch and a 3-foot chipping wall, smacking this rotor, trying to get it off. Finally, I got the rotor off, and I was like, well, that wheel bearing's got to be hot enough to come off. No, it was jammed on there just tight as a rotor. And then I put the ball joints in it, you know, everything's going smooth, and the dust shield for the brake rotor, it was rusted out, and I was like, well, I'll just leave it off there. It's not going to be any good to us anyways. Mind you, this was right before I had to leave for Firepunk. I didn't have time to go get a new dust shield. It was just put it back together. On the brake and ABS line on these, I don't know about other trucks, but I know on the probably even 03 to 07 Cummins, that dust shield holds that line down from getting cut by the rotor. And as soon as it rolled out of the driveway, the rotor cut the brake and ABS line and threw a code immediately. If you leave the intake air temp sensor unplugged, it'll throw a code. It doesn't really mean anything, but unless you want your check engine light on, it'll throw a code. One thing on the industrial pump, right here, this line, it's just a push to lock fitting. You pop that off. Underneath there, it was just metal on metal. It didn't come with a crush washer, didn't come with a seal or O-ring. And it started leaking, and I was like, why the hell is my brand new pump leaking fuel? I pulled that off, put a little O-ring in there. It hasn't leaked since. Other than that, that is it. I haven't really had many issues with it. The setup's been pretty good for a while now. I've drove it for, it's probably been about a month since it got dynoed and tuned. The next video I post, you guys will know what it made and how the day went, and if I can figure out how to put some clips in there, I will. Other than that, right now it's having a little bit of fuel delivery issue. I think the FCA on the pump's bad. It's wanting to have some rail surge problems. This week I have to send in a data log to Firepunk, have some tune revisions, or figure out what's wrong with it. Other than that, the truck hasn't really given me any fits. When you go to put your new fleece drain tube in, take a round file, clean out the hole in the block, and then change your oil. That hole goes right to the pan, it doesn't matter. Just sit there with the file, take your time, guys. I messed up trying to rush it because I was like, oh, this stuff's cake work, and ended up costing me a lot more time than it should have. When you go to put that new drain plug in, it will not fit, not plug, drain tube. Just sit there with a round file until it goes in. I mean, you're gonna have to apply some force, don't get me wrong, but until it goes in snug and you don't have to sit there and beat the hell out of it. Other than that, that's about all the help, all the things I struggle with that I know I can help you with. Yeah, there's not a lot to it. There wasn't a lot of issues. Don't mind my clamps on my front bumper. I'm re-gluing this piece right now, so I guess that's kind of it on the whole build plan for the engine. Anyways, I'm gonna go over, and then another video is just the whole truck entirely, what it's done to it, and you know, just like I done with my 6-liter and what I done when I just got this truck. We've done a lot of work since then in a very short amount of time. So we have some t-shirts coming to the channel. This was the first design. They all sold out really quick. I appreciate to everybody that supports me and helps me with the merchandise, and it's not really a money thing, but it helps the name spread for the channel and helps people see it and helps us go a little farther. At the end of the day, I love these trucks, and I love helping people, and I know that there's some kids out there that are just like me when I was a kid, just looking up to the guys that had really cool stuff, and I just want to be able to help those kids and show them that if you just work hard towards something that ends up paying off. So thank you guys. Have a good day. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Message me to say hi. I want to know who all is in the crowd. Other than that, thank you guys for watching. Have a good day.